What basically happened was I was walking my dog this morning, and I happened to look down at my phone, and I got like 50 concurrent notifications about like Facebook canceled your order, Facebook canceled your order, Facebook canceled your order, Facebook canceled your order. And so Facebook had canceled all of my current orders that some of them I hadn't even processed yet, so I wasn't losing necessarily any money on that. And some of them I had already processed already, obviously, and I just hadn't input the tracking for. And it was about probably like 50 to 60 orders currently in my personal marketplace that were sitting there pending, right? And so some of them, like I said, I had already, processed the orders for, and I'm clearly just out the money now because I can't cancel those orders. And some of them I hadn't processed yet, but that was probably only like 10 or 15 because this is like in between like last night and this morning, right? So I'm probably out. I haven't even done the math. I've been too annoyed at it this morning. Obviously, I had to process orders for my Facebook shop. I had to process a lot of Amazon orders. I had to set my one VA up, although he can't even do anything now because Facebook's down just in general. Like, you can't even log onto Facebook. You can't log onto Facebook shops. Like, you can't, or business.facebook. You can't log into Instagram. You can't log into WhatsApp right now. Facebook's down, right? But I just wanted to kind of touch on this because it is happening. It just happened to me. And obviously that completely shatters my confidence going forward about using personal marketplace. I've never seen this happen on shops yet. I haven't really had any problems on shops yet. This is just me. I have seen other people have problems with shops. I have not. This is the first major problem, obviously, outside of like getting suspended on Facebook Marketplace, like randomly for no reason. But this is a major problem, right? If they can't fix this going forward, I'm going to have to probably like rethink how much I'm suggesting this to people, because like the worst case scenario is like, okay, I tell somebody new, like, you can go on Marketplace and make a lot of money dropshipping because you absolutely can, right? And I can. I made, I don't even know what it was, like almost 11 grand last month dropshipping on Marketplace and shops just last month profit-wise, right? So you can. But one of the worst things, and I have friends that I suggested this to, would be like me to tell somebody to get started, them having like 50 to 100 processed orders, and like I'm not saying like I can afford to lose like 3 grand on it, but I kind of can. But if it was like one of my friends that like had a bunch of processed orders, or one of you guys that like had a bunch of orders that like they'd already processed but hadn't put shipping in, and Facebook just went ahead and canceled those orders randomly out of like some weird like seller or buyer protection, like they always say, whatever bullshit that is, and like that email that they give you, like I'd be horrified. Like one of my friends or like one of my students would lose $1,000 or like a couple $100 at minimum, or even like up to a couple grand. I've seen some people in Facebook groups post about like losing 5 to 10 grand on those. And granted, I haven't done the numbers. It's probably for me like anywhere from like, I don't know, like 2 grand profit, $1,500 profit. Again, I'm just kind of estimating in my mind. I haven't gone ahead and looked at the actual numbers yet because I've been too annoyed and it just happened this morning. And the only reason I'm making this video is because I have like a lull in my business right now where like taking a deep breath. It happened this morning, and obviously I can't log into Facebook or shops to process any of those orders. So like I just have a little bit of time on my hands right now before obviously I get back into it. So I just wanted to bring this to light. It is, troubling, to be quite frank. It's if they can't fix this going forward, I'm really going to struggle suggesting using personal Facebook Marketplace for a lot of people going forward. And so what I do want to touch on is I do want to do a workaround, obviously. The way that I'm going to suggest to people going forward, and the way that I'm going to do it with my own business, is I'm not going to leave any orders pending. Now, we're just talking about personal Facebook Marketplace with like your personal profile, right? Like I haven't not seen this issue with shops yet. Knock on wood, cross your fingers, everything else. So what I'm going to do is when I'm processing orders now, instead of leaving them pending there and waiting for me to get the actual shipping, I'm going to create an entirely new column in my spreadsheet, right? Like I used to just have like tracking number, and I input the tracking number. If it was like a tracking number that was like from overseas, or maybe an Amazon tracking number or something like that that wasn't FedEx, UPS, or the post office, then I'd obviously use OA Genius, right? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to immediately use an OA Genius tracking number so that none of my orders are pending, so that God forbid this ever happens again, I don't have any pending orders for Facebook to cancel, okay? Now, the issue with that going forward, obviously that's beneficial because, you can mark those orders shipped and then you don't have to worry about them getting canceled in the future. The issue with that is you're not able to actually change your shipping, your tracking numbers anymore on Facebook Marketplace. So once they're in there, you might face some issues with like people messaging you and being like, hey, this is the wrong tracking number. I got my package. It's still, but the tracking says it's still going to be delivered like a week from now, right? or hey, this, my package says it's delivered and obviously it hasn't been delivered yet because you're using an OA Genius tracking number, and there's no way to get an estimate on that right away usually if you just ordered it, right? So what I'm gonna plan on doing is I'm gonna input a tracking number with OA Genius immediately as far out to that city as possible. So maybe that's a week from now, maybe that's a week and a half, and then just deal with the messaging ramifications of it later, and then put the actual tracking number when I actually get it into my spreadsheet. So if I get a message from the customer, I will then message them the actual tracking number, okay? So the only time you're really gonna run into an issue with that is obviously if the customer says it's not been delivered, but that's always been in the case anyway, and that doesn't matter, okay? Or if obviously your tracking number doesn't get delivered, your package doesn't get delivered before the tracking number that you input obviously comes to life, right? So then that will be an issue from the buyer, but then you can message them the actual tracking number in and of itself, okay, when you actually get it. And the last thing is, like, if you do, and I've talked about this before, like, God forbid, like, you order something drop shipping now, and it gets delivered to the buyer in like 3 days, but the OA Genius tracking number says it will be delivered in like a week. That usually isn't an issue because the buyer's usually happy that they got it a lot faster than the tracking estimated. So that's not really going to be an issue most of the time, although that just means your payment will be slightly delayed. But a delayed payment, even if it's delayed like a couple days to a week, is a lot better than risking a canceled order, because God knows what Facebook's doing right now with these canceled orders, okay?